Guys,
Hello,
I hope
hello.
can you hear us? See us?
In case you do, please feel free to give us a quick hello. Also, let me grab some water as usual.
Yes. Can you see us, the stick, and hear us? Nice. Raw,
Can you see us?
raw. I don't want to get poisoned, raw. Come on, man.
All right, all
Yeah, we
right.
can see y'all. Nice. Thank you, Obi
It's so good
John.
that you guys see us. That's great. I don't know how it is for you, but in Berlin, it's insanely hot. I don't know what's happening. It's been raining all day, and it's so freaking warm. So it's
No,
hard to be me right now.
I see. No, here it's kind of hot, but not really hot.
Mm.
See, that's why I'm telling you, man. Come to Budapest. It's the best place on earth. If there's any
I'm
Hungarian
telling
here,
you.
shout out to you guys.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Welcome, guys. Hello, hello, hello. I am, yeah, cool. I'm very excited to be here today. I sound like I was invited to like a podcast. Thank you guys for having me so much today. We have a cool topic to talk about today, and I have to be honest. Before we dive into the topic, I want to quickly go over some updates. But I have to be honest, the topic that we talk about today, I've struggled a lot with, really trying to make a video or like a call about it because it's a topic that is very hard for me to like give good advice for because the topic is how to come up with cool creative ideas, right? And I know it's something that a lot of people are always very interested in. A lot of people are always asking for it. A lot of people are always like, they don't know where to start. They don't know how to find cool ideas, and I'm always sitting there trying to like make something up. And I want to use this video today to really try to have a conversation about it. This is not going to be like a traditional presentation where I have like the magic sauce prepared. I'll just try to talk about what's going on in my mind, try to make you guys understand a bit more, and then also give you guys maybe some insightful tips or tricks that maybe helps you, maybe not. I hope it does. But yeah, I think before we do that, real quick, um, as for motion creators, we have a new module that will be released very soon. Let me just quickly go over. Actually, I don't think I need to share my screen for that, but it's about Photoshop. I don't know if I've announced it in last week's creators call. I don't think so. We will have a Photoshop slash graphic design module included in the editing toolkit. So if you go to the editing toolkit, you will find a not yet, but very soon in the next week, you will find a course that is about Photoshop and graphic design specifically, because there is a lot of Photoshop tutorials, not a traditional how to use Photoshop course. Is more of a how to use Photoshop in a creative way to create cool visuals. You will see it's awesome. We got a banger, banger teacher for that one. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's really fucking big. And also we have some new DaVinci videos that are going to be released after this call. So just check the Classroom tab for new updates, and I'll let you know, and then you can announce it. Um, Awesome. I would say also feel free to participate in this conversation. As I said, I would like this call to be a bit more of an open conversation. Feel free to ask any questions because it's very hard for me to talk about this topic and really try to like, give useful tips and tricks here because it's something that um, I, naturally you would say it comes from within. You just have them. You need to have that creativity. But what does that even mean? And I feel like when I look back and I've looked at certain things and tried to understand my mind a bit more, I could see some patterns and I could see what maybe um, can help you guys also to like start getting a bit out of your creative like limitation and start having viral ideas or cool ideas, in case you don't already have them or you just want to hear my thoughts on that or whatever. I would highly appreciate some questions. Again, feel free to ask them. I would also make this very interactive. So if we want to talk about specific project, maybe I can try to like come up with an idea for something or whatever it is. Let's have a conversation about that. Cool. I would like to start with analyzing, and that's what I try to do. Whenever someone asks me that question, how do you come up with a crazy cool idea for a video, right? If someone asks me that question, I always try to understand what is going on in my mind. And I've, you can see there's some like there's some slides here, and I will not go through the slides as a presentation. I'll just make this a bit more of a talking. I'll just try to freestyle a bit here. So I think when I try to understand what's going on in my mind, there is one thing that I've realized that I've only realized pretty recently after having a talk with someone about it, which is that, and I would like to also, this is very interesting for me. This is not me sitting here, but it's like, and me talking is also like, I want to know how it is for you, because I'm genuinely interested. And I had this conversation with Paul earlier. Because for me, it's very natural that I think in pictures. What does that mean? And this is a conversation I had with someone. When someone tells me something, I instantly think of an image. If I tell you right now, you're in a green grass field. In my mind, I don't know how it is for you, Alan. Maybe you can give me some feedback. If I tell you that you're in a grass field, I immediately have a picture, like without even like trying to think about it. Like there's instantly, just by hearing it, there's instantly a picture in my head. Yes. And I don't know if that's the case for you, but I've realized that that is not something that everybody has. Like I feel like people, and I'm not by any means a psychologist or anything that anyone that has to do with the human mind. I am so fascinated by it. But what I've realized about me is that I think more in pictures than I think other people do. And that is one thing that I've only recently realized, because that was so normal for me. But then when I talked to someone about it, he was like, yeah, apparently not everybody thinks in that way. And I would like to hear your guys' feedback. If that's the same for you, if you've realized that about yourself, that you instantly think in pictures, and maybe also try to like really be aware of that. When you're having a conversation with someone, think of what your mind is thinking, and try to see, are you thinking in pictures? Are you naturally thinking about the actual content? I think it's very hard to like differentiate between what you're actually thinking and what you're not thinking. But for me, subconsciously, without even doing anything, there's always pictures in my head. And if that's the case for you, I think that's a good, I would say that's a good thing. And that when I look back at some of the stuff that I did when I was a kid, has always been the case for me. And I would like to, I prepared some stuff, okay? I don't have a cool presentation to show, but I have some other cool things to show, which is my first attempts of creating videos. Do you want to see that? I think this is very funny, actually. Because back in the day, and keep in mind, this was when I was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. Maybe a bit older than that, but oops, that's the wrong screen. My bad, 1 second. Because when I look back at the stuff that I created when I was a kid, I obviously did not have big companies waiting to pay budgets for me for projects, but I still wanted to create visions and pictures that I had in my mind. And my way of doing that was using my Nintendo and creating small little Lego videos. And I want to show you what I did when I was like, this was when I was like, I think was when I was like 9 or 8 or 9. These are the videos that I created here. And you can see there's like stop motion, and I did some like, Star Wars scenery here. You can see in the background, there was like a Death Star that I drew as like a backdrop. So it's like a scenery, and I was doing stop motion with my Nintendo, and that was so natural to me to do that, because I was like, yeah, it was like when I first found out that I could do like these kinds of videos with my Nintendo that I had back in the day. You can even see here, there's like a minifigure walking up to this thing and then going inside, and then there's like a, I don't know, fucking dinosaur coming, and then there's like a drill, whatever it is. But you could see that this was like the start for me. And I think I did not realize that was something special up until only recently, because I don't think a lot of people did that when they were like this age. And now looking back at it, it's just like it just proves to me that I've always been like visually, I've always thought visually, and I've always had the urge to like create something visually. And that, I think, is basically the core where it started, because there was no pressure on it, no nothing, and I will get to that later. But what happened then was I kind of started to think more rationally and less creatively, meaning that as I became older, I started to drop these visual stories that I had in my head a lot, because I was like, okay, this is just, this is nonsense, and there's a lot of like stuff in my head, but I don't really take the time to actually think about it, or try to make something with it, because it's just like creative ideas and stuff that you do as a kid. But when I look back at it, the stuff that I did as a kid is exactly what I'm doing now, just on a different level, and now I'm getting paid to do that. And the pattern I see, I think, is that as I started to allow myself to really let myself have these creative thoughts that came to me naturally, I have these like pictures and images and like things of like things that move in my head. And as I allowed myself to really let them, I don't know what's the right way to say that, but like, as I allowed myself to think about them more and actually took the time to learn the tools that would enable me, just like I used my Nintendo back then to visualize the ideas that I had playing with Lego, I started to learn more tools to create the visions that I had in my mind. That instantly was something that was new, because that was in my mind. That was only in my mind. And then as I really took the time to make it a visual thing that I could show to people, these things grabbed attention. And I want to show another example for that, because when I got a bit older, and I was like, I want to say like, okay, I can actually check. That was 9 years ago. 9 years ago, I was a bit older than back then, but still, I used to do these Minecraft intro animations. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but when you look at my YouTube channel, there's a lot of like these Minecraft intro animations on there, and those performed really good for what they were back in the days. And I was gaining a lot of like subscribers through them, and became pretty big. And I think the reason for that is because now that was my first time using 3D software. I think that the only thing that changed is now I was able to create these videos on a more professional level, and created these Minecraft intro animations where people were like, "Wow, this is so sick," right? And that was just me trying out new tools to really make that vision that I had in my mind work. And I want to show you this specific example, and use it as a bridge to what I'm going to say now, is where I get those creative ideas and how I come up with them. Okay, because I remember when I look back at this video, I'm going to show it I'm going to show it now. You can see there's like this character running down. He's jumping into in a helicopter. He's running into this building, and he's like, you see these crazy camera movements, and there's like the name for it. And it's, I don't want to say it's bad, because it's really not for what it was back then. But I remember being in a ski lift. Going down up a hill, and all I could think about was how I want the camera to move, how I want the character to move, what the timing will be. I had the whole thing visually in my head in a ski lift as I was going up the hill doing nothing. I was just staring to the distance and looking at and thinking about what I was going to do. And the reason I got so excited about it and couldn't stop thinking about it, I think, was because I learned a new tool that I knew exactly would enable me to really create this vision. Because it's one thing about having a vision, and then one thing about knowing that you'll be able to make this vision a reality. Do you know what I mean? And this is kind of where I want to, make the bridge and talk about how I now, when we look at what I'm doing now, how I usually come up with like creative ideas, especially for client work. And as when I can only talk, because it's very hard for me to like explain how the creative process works. It's always so different. But when I look back at when I had certain ideas, it was always in moments where I really allowed myself to really sit down and to just have nothing around me except for that one thing that I want to think about. You know what I mean? There's like when I look back at the G-Wagon video, I remember I was sitting on a balcony, uh, uh, eating something, doing nothing, and then for example, for the what was it, Lego video, that one I had when I was laying in bed and I couldn't see because I was like, oh, there's this one thing I want to do. And it's always in moments like these, and I think this is something that uh, sounds pretty self-explanatory. Give yourself the room to really think that, give yourself the creative space, blah 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 blah. But for me, it's really the case to have that sense of like calmingness, and that does not mean that I need to like physically separate myself from a room or something. It just means that in my mind needs to like be a bit less stressed and is not under pressure. Because what I've also realized about the last few months where I was doing client work and commission work and working on projects, it's always in moments where I feel the most pressure that I have the least ideas. And as I got more ideas and as I got more feedback, the pressure became lower because I had more trust in my ideas, and I knew that I would come up with something. And I had this level of confidence where I was like, I will come up with something. And as soon as I had that level of calmness, I came up with something. And I want to try to break this down, and then also feel free to interrupt me here if you have any like thoughts to add to this, because I would like to make this, as I said, a more interactive call. I would like to try to give you guys some tips that maybe help you or help me to really have that creative process in place. And the first thing I will say was, which I think is the least effective for me, but still is like the first thing I probably think everybody tells you, is get inspired by other content. And the reason I think it's the least effective and the trickiest thing to do is because when you see other content, it's very easy to try to copy that content. And when you're copying something or making something pretty similar to something else, it will not have the same effect as the original, right? And that is why I try to not copy other people, but also I definitely look at other people's work and get inspired by that, and then do my own twist to it. Because I have a specific Instagram account. I think I've said this once before. I have a specific Instagram account dedicated to only showing me content that is kind of similar to mine. So I've trained the algorithm. I'm basically just swiping everything except for reels that match my style. And every time I want to get inspired, I go to that Instagram account, I swipe, and I only see content that is close to mine. And it's car content, it's 3D stuff, it's very nerdy sometimes, but it's stuff that inspires me. And I think you could do the same thing with your type of content. Everything you think is cool will probably ultimately be something that will translate to your content. So get an Instagram account, train the algorithm to do that, and then just swipe everything except for the stuff that you actually think is cool and is inspiring. Then trying, and this is hard to do, trying to think in pictures. And what I mean by that is, when you have an initial thought of an image, don't let that thought slip. Try to hold on to that image that you initially have and try to think of what you could do with it. And I know for a fact that this will probably sound very stupid to a lot of people, because they will be like, yeah, well, now I'm sitting here, and then clients waiting for a cool concept, whatever. But I just, for the hell of it, I cannot think of something else. And I know that feeling too, and I know how that affects my creativity. But for me, as I said, really trying to lower the pressure and stress on my mind by going out, taking a walk, going out. I take a lot of breaks here. I don't sit on my desk for too long because I get so, my mind is all over the place. So even just going for a walk or going home with a car from my office to my home, like, these are the moments where I have cool ideas. It's not when I sit here and I'm like, I'm opening a page and I'm like, let's write a concept, right? This is not how it works for me. This is never how it has worked. It's always been I have a cool idea, and the ideas are the best when they come natural. But obviously, there's something that I cannot really give you a good advice for. But I just know for me that it really works in settings where I don't feel so much pressure. And then I guess the next topic is, what should you do when you feel stuck? And this is something I want to be very transparent about, because I also have these moments a lot. And it's not like I sit here and always have like the craziest ideas. I guess that's probably how a lot of people view it, because that's the only thing they see. But I have I struggle so much with finding good ideas, especially when it needs to be fast, it needs to be last minute. I know that maybe a big gig depends on how good my idea is. And that's usually the moments where I feel a lot of stress. And I, as I said, actively try to reduce that stress by, letting it sit for a bit, letting it sit as long as it needs to, until I, send in something. Maybe the first idea I send them is not even the full idea. It's just an initial thing for them to be like, okay, he has something in mind, or he's working on something, but I'm nowhere close to like having a good idea. But I just pretend I have one, and I send it to the client just to give me more room and give me more time to actually come up with something cool. And then maybe the idea is completely different to what I sent them, but it doesn't really matter. So let it sit, let it work, and give you the time as much as you need. And again, actively fighting the pressure. I now work in a very stressful job where I fly to an event, I get a last minute job request with a good amount of money on it, and they expect me to have the golden idea. And it's the easiest thing to lose it and just be like, okay, this is, have no ideas. And I have that so much. But I feel like with the more projects I successfully do, the more approval I get from other people, the more I feel relaxed, even in those stressful situations, because I know I will come up with something. And it's like it's an upward spiral for me, where I know I get good ideas, and it's the opposite. It's the other way around. If I don't have a good idea, the pressure gets higher, and it's a downward spiral. So I actively try to like step away from that and just let it sit. So yeah, I think this is my initial start for that conversation, and I would love for you guys to maybe ask some questions, share how your creative process works for you, because I'm genuinely interested in that. And maybe let's try to find some gold nuggets here, because again, I don't have the golden answer to what makes viral ideas. I don't have that. I know consuming a lot of social media helps you understand more of what other people do and gets you inspired. But watching a lot of social media and not having your own ideas will only lead to you copying other people. And there's a thin line between getting enough inspiration and input from other people and having enough free room to yourself where you can actually explore your own creative ideas. And I think the sweet spot is right in between. And yeah, let's have a chat about it. Someone said, for me, too, music, ideas, lyrics. That's something for an example. For me, I cannot listen to anything when I'm like brainstorming. I cannot listen to any music, no nothing. I just need my own space. Sometimes I lay right here, right behind that desk. I lay on the floor when it's super stressful, and I just look at the ceiling. I'll just lay there like a like a sea star. And that sometimes helps, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I go for a walk. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts, and maybe yeah, feel free to ask any questions. I'll also love to hear your thoughts, Aladdin, on how you approach your creative your creative
The
brainstorming.
process,
And
yeah.
yeah, the process, or maybe what you think would help you, could help you. Maybe if there's something where you always feel stuck at, and let's see if we can
I
do something together here.
I want to share something that's actually I learned a long time ago. It was a course about, it's called Learning How to Learn, something like that. I was on Coursera,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't finish that course, but I remember there was one video mentioned that about talking about the brain when it goes to the diffusion mood,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I was very, very impressed by the amount of famous people, like someone, I think Da Vinci,
Hmm.
a very famous painter, I guess. He painted one of his famous painters. I don't remember right now the name of that painter, but I saw the pictures, and he painted the way how it was his brain was on the diffusion mode. And
Hmm.
basically, on the diffusion mode, basically it means when your brain is focused on the problem, like really your brain works 100%, it's almost, I'm not going to say impossible, but it's almost extremely difficult to find the solution to that problem
Hmm.
because your brain is focused 100% on it. But here's the interesting part. When you diffuse your brain, which means like you unwire your brain from the problem, you go for a walk or you take a shower where actually your brain doesn't think about the problem, suddenly the solution to that problem comes in, or the
Hmm.
imagination to that problem comes in. And that's what happened to me all the time. Like when I go for a long walks, or especially when I take a long shower, that's
Hmm.
where mostly I get the most creative fucking amazing ideas, honestly.
Hmm. Yeah, I think
You
it's the
know?
same for me, and I think for me, it's when my brain has, as you said, is working on doing something else. And for me, I honestly think I get the best ideas when I'm in the car, because especially in Berlin traffic, like
Yeah.
it's stressful, right? There's a lot of shit happening all the time, and I'm driving, and I'm like. I can sometimes I see how my brain is like analyzing every single thing, and it's just on autopilot, but it's doing so much at the same time. It's looking at, there's a cyclist coming, there's like a, car stop, like there's stupid
Exactly.
people driving, and you're like, you know, there's barely any room to like be distracted. But then my brain still thinks about that thing that I want to do, but has so much other stuff to do that, yeah, as you said, it's very hard for me to explain that, but it's definitely helping doing something else as I'm
Exactly.
yeah. So
So
when
it's
I
like,
sit down and I have like a lot of like pressure on the thing being done in the next half an hour, no chance, or very low chance I will have a good idea. But then if I just, I have a good example for that. I was approached by a company. They wanted a concept, and they wanted something, I cannot name the thing, but it's NDA, but it was for a big film, a big feature film, and they wanted some reels for that, and they were like giving me some like, you know uh some input, and I was sitting there for at least 20 minutes and could not come up with anything. And then I sat down and played a round of Mario Kart. I recently bought a Nintendo Switch where I was here. We sit there and play a round of Mario Kart. As I put down the control, I was like, damn. And then, it's like this. I went back to my desk, had the idea, they loved it. So yeah.
but guys, there is only one downside of that thing or that idea, is that if you do not have a pen and paper with you or a note to capture the idea immediately, then this idea or that solution is gone. It's almost impossible to get it back. And if you got it back, you will not get it back vividly the way how you saw it. That's from my
Mm,
experience. Especially, for example, like when I take shower, I get like vivid image, but it's almost impossible to have my phone next to me or like a
yeah.
pen and paper. So it's like, oh, I have to remember, I have to remember, I have to remember. It's like I get out of it, and by the time I get out of it, it's like, or like a lot of time, honestly, a lot of time I get lazy. So I was like, okay, I will remember it later. And then when I
Hmm.
finish, the whole idea is gone. So that's
Yeah.
the only downside from my experience. And it's literally the best way to find a solution, or to think of an imagination, or to think of a new idea without thinking of a new idea, or without thinking of the problem. So it's
Yeah.
like you're thinking of the problem, but you're not really thinking of the problem. It's somehow difficult to explain,
Yeah.
but it still makes sense if you know what I mean, Lenny. Probably you
Yeah, I think
understand what
I
I mean.
think I actually think my mind works a bit different, because I feel like for me, I barely write any ideas down. I barely I there's something in my head where, and we have some cool stuff in the chat I want to go over, but I for me, when I have an idea and I have something that I get excited about, my mind is like cannot stop thinking about it. And it's not like I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh shit, I need to like grab that thought. But it's more like, oh shit. And then it becomes like I'm mapping out the whole thing. There's like the start, and then on that initial thought that I had is like building and building and building is like as to a point where I have a full concept in my head and it's like backed up. It's like stored. I don't know how that works. I don't know. I don't have any lists, but I have like few projects at the same time. But I know like for that one, I go into my backup folder like, okay, that was the initial idea, and then I go into my backup folder. It's like that was the initial idea. And I was like, it's something about it. But yeah, I think what you just said is the case for a lot of people. I also want to read real quick what we have here. So Mattia said, I'm at the beginning and I have a lot of battle in my mind when I do a project. Is it better to do what is better for trending or what people like more or what my mind think is best? Sometimes it's maybe too much effects and animations. How do you find solution between what you like or what is best for project? It's hard to write this type of question, but I think you understand. I think I understand what you're saying, and I think the only way you will find that sweet spot between doing too much and not being creative enough is by trying. And I say that because for me, it was the same thing. When I had, like, I did not dare to make certain things because I was like, I've never done it before. I didn't try to like visualize the thoughts because it's also so intimate. You have like an initial idea and maybe it feels too crazy to even do, where people will be like, what the, how, you know? But I tell you that once I started doing that and I got the feedback from people that they loved it, you could not even imagine how much more ideas I had and the better the ideas got because I got that initial approval. And what I'm saying is the only way for you to find that sweet spot, because it's possible that you will create something that people won't like. And I could sit here and say everything is art. I don't think that's the case. If you want to make it successful, if you want to be creative, that gets paid good money, you need to make stuff that has an impact, meaning stuff that you like, but also other people like. Not everybody needs to enjoy it. Not everybody needs to think it's crazy, but at least a good amount of people need to do it for other people to be like, okay, we want to pay you to do that. Okay. So, and what I'm saying is here, just start trying to visualize the ideas that you have, trying to take the time to really make it a thing, because otherwise there's no chance of people to know what's actually going on in your mind and in your head. Because if you're only trying to like not do too much all the time because you're scared for other people to be like, what is that person doing? You will always limit yourself and people will never know what is actually going on. There's a chance of you putting certain things out that maybe other people will be like, you know, what is that? And that's cool, but you will adapt naturally, I think. And just getting that feedback and seeing what it actually looks like when you put it out. What is the impact that my visual idea that I had in my mind looks like, and how do people react to it? And getting that feedback and knowing how certain things perform, you will know so much more, and your ideas will adapt to that initial feedback you got subconsciously. You don't need to do anything about it. So yeah, my advice would be just do with the craziest thing you have in your head, put it out there, see what the feedback is. And if it's not good, then you will probably automatically adapt to it. But I 100% tell you that it's worth the risk to go all out. Not necessarily meaning that the video needs to be crazy over affected, just meaning that the video needs to be exactly the way you want it to be and not adapted to a client feedback or adapted to like what you think the client will like, you know, because the client doesn't know. You know, if the client knew, they would not hire you as a creative to come up with an initial idea. So Tasdik said, I've been feeling a bit stuck, especially since I'm going to attempt to take a new spin on my content as you advised. I've got some great original ideas down, and now it's the execution that's what I'm struggling with. Aha, okay. I also drive a lot when I'm in ideation phase. But what also helps get my creative juices flowing is by having a good workout session. It's sometimes overwhelming and chaotic though. 100%. I also get. I honestly no. I don't think I get a lot of ideas when I go to the gym. Sometimes I do, but usually that's what I would think would happen. But it's not. Like when I'm in the gym, I'm not thinking about anything. I'm like lifting weights, bro. That's it. But it's so relaxed. I get the ideas after because my mind was like working out, and now it's like back to normal. So and regarding your question, you said I've got some great original ideas. Now it's the execution that I'm struggling with. Yeah, but you can nail it down to certain problems now. It's you have an idea, you have that idea figured out, and you know you want to create it now. Now is the fun phase where you actually start putting that into action and finding the problems, writing down the problems you need to solve in order for you to create that idea that you have in your head. Do you know what I mean? Watching certain tutorials because you know you want to have a certain car animation happening. You want to have a smoke simulation on the car wheel. I know I want to have that. I have no clue how to do that, so I'll watch a tutorial for it. But yeah, I think going from a creative flow to actually nailing it down to an idea and then being like, okay, let's break this down into technical stuff and make it a thing. That's like the process for it. And Tasdeek said, I can't write my ideas. It's too chaotic. I feel you, bro. I 100%. I agree. And that's why I prefer to just do them and have people trust me and show it to them instead of like, I would not sit here and talk to the client exactly what I want. Like, it's a waste of their time because they will never understand. It's a waste of my time because I'll never be able to explain it in a good way. So it's a waste of time on all ends. The only thing I need to do is do it. Yes, Matja also said,
Or
is it
it's easier way for question before what you do when you're stuck between two ideas. Well, honestly, I would say apply both of them, see which one is working.
I mean, it's probably a matter of time. If you have the time
Yeah.
to do both, then I. What was the question? If you have two ideas and you cannot decide between two, I mean, try to combine them. Maybe if there are certain elements in one idea that you like, and there are certain elements in the other idea that you like, try to combine them. It's very hard to talk about ideas without an actual project to talk about. So I don't know if you have like a specific example to show, Matja, then we could go over it together. I struggle with the execution part of all these ideas. It could be because of my limited skill set as of now, plus the imposter syndrome. I am um, a big struggler with imposter syndrome too. I know how it feels, man. Or I don't know if you are a girl or a dude. But the execution phase, 100%. It's yeah, but it's. I think it's a very lame excuse, and I honestly feel that way. And maybe I'm like disagreeing with some people here. I think the execution phase is probably like the least challenging one because it's at the end of the day, it's just about learning the tools, and that is something that you can do on the internet for free. That is something you can do through a course. That you can something you can do through a community. Check out Motion Creators if you're not part of it. But I would say that if you have the idea figured out and you have the vision figured out, breaking down into technical steps is like the easiest part because usually there is a super quick way to do certain things. And if it's like, I don't know, obviously if you want to create I don't know, Netflix type of destruction simulation or whatever, even for that there's plugins. So everything has been done before almost, and now it's up to you to like pick the most efficient way to do certain things to like make it a thing, you know. But yeah, 100% feel you. That's virtually impossible to explain. 100%. Also, as an advice, don't try to make the client understand. I've struggled with that also. I've learned that also the hard way because sometimes it scares them off. If there's like a thing that you tell them that might sound very weird or has not been done before, they will not have a reference for it. They will probably not be super excited about it because they don't have the same images as you, and it can be a bad thing because you're like kind of scaring them off. So I try to make it sound as creative as possible, but also try to like only tell them the stuff that I know they will kind of understand, and the rest is kind of like trust me with it. So yeah, I think that's how I usually work. I usually send them like a rough concept. In that concept, I say certain things that I know they want to hear about their product. about how I will feature the product, about what features of the product I will show, blah blah blah. So they were like, okay, nice, he's got some cool idea. Our product will be featured in that way, whatever it is. And yeah, then it comes down to just me doing the rest, and them having yeah, just trust me with it. I do have to say though, and that's one more thing I want to add. There is a certain wait, let me reframe that. I What I've realized is you have a certain style and you have a certain way of thinking of things and stuff that you're specifically good at, or um at the end of the day, you do have a niche. You will have a niche, and your ideas do not always, and your style does not always need to match a certain product. And that is something I've also learned the hard way, because I was struggling a lot with trying to be the guy who would feel like he needs to come up with an idea for everything, who needs to have an idea for everything, who needs to have a solution for everything. But some products or some, you know, things just don't match your style, and that's totally fine. And that's also what I'm realizing just now as I'm working on one of the projects. I'm just realizing that that niche, that kind of like, it's for the MMA thing. And I just realized that I'm just not so happy with the video, and it's still cool, but it's just like I just don't feel like that's my style. And I can only know that through trying, but also I have to be honest to myself and know that I will get more excited about other projects. And that's totally fine, meaning that I will, for the future, try to focus on those that I'm really good at. If it's car videos, if it's, I don't know, like cool product videos or whatever it is, um, I do know that I have a certain skill set, product set, type of client that I'm really good at working with. And there are certain things that just don't work for me. And that's fine. But you will never be able to just like point that out and be like, this is my thing, without trying the other things. So even now, I'm like, even though I'm like, I have my niche, I'm still like trying to find stuff that works, trying to find stuff that doesn't work. So I don't think I think it's a never ending process. So yeah, but also know that your style and your ideas don't need to be for everyone, don't need to be for everything. That's bullshit. Like I I would say. Um, cool. Aladdin, I think you're muted. Do you want to add something to that?
Oh, sorry. No, yeah, yeah. I was just saying, cool. Anyone has more questions? Use this time to squeeze Lenny the shit out of him to get the most out of
Yeah,
creation
because
process. That's the
I
best
think
moment.
especially for this one, like it's as I said, it's a hard topic to for me to talk about, because I don't fully understand how my mind works. I just know that it works in a different way than some other people's minds, or I'm allowing my mind more than other people do. I think that's actually the case. I think I just allow myself to have more ideas. I don't think I necessarily have more ideas than other people, but I allow my ideas to come through a lot more than other people, I would say.
I would personally would say it's more of like, you just find how you get ideas and you just go down to it. Like for me, as I mentioned, for me, long walks and long showers. So I allow my just my brain turns off kind
Yeah.
of automatically. For you, it's driving in the damn chaotic Berlin,
Yeah.
which is to me, honestly, like I would never like that's kind of one of the impossible things to get like somehow idea or solution or anything
Yeah.
in this
But
craziness.
you know what the
But
thing
to
is,
you, it
Paladin? I
works for
think
you.
it's the same. We can draw like a similarity here. We're both relaxing, even though for me the relaxation part comes from stress. It's very weird, because I get, it's almost like meditation when I'm driving, because like
Yeah,
my mind is just on autopilot. And I think it's probably the same when you're on walk. It's obviously less stressful physically, but it's just your mind is on autopilot still, you're just walking. And
exactly.
I think my mind is probably going like turning down a bit when I'm like super like busy with other stuff. It's almost like it's like I'm zoning out, and it's like, okay, my body's doing what it needs to do to not crash and die.
Exactly.
And my mind is in like in a comfort zone. But yeah, it's
It's just you gotta find your own way of
yeah,
how to make your brain on
how
autopilot,
to get to that
basically.
state, how to get to
Yeah,
that
how to
state, I would
get to
say.
that state. So
Yeah,
it's not like you allow your brain or not, but it's just you find how your brain, when your brain is relaxed, when your brain is on autopilot, and just go do that exercise that makes it on autopilot. To him is driving in craziness or chaotic. To me is walking a long shower. Maybe to someone else is just like free drive, like driveway, like
yeah,
driving in, like empty space. That's like his
yeah,
creativity part, you
yeah.
know so
I want to add one more thing, which is when you feel stuck, or when I feel stuck, I what I do is I usually I know that at a certain point I will not be able to come up with an idea, and I just let it sit. I don't waste time to, like, when I feel myself getting distracted, do other things. I don't waste time on that task because I just know my mind too well to know that I'm not going to find a good solution here. When I have when I have pressure and like just stuff is just not working, I'm just like sitting there doing nothing, just not getting anywhere. I just let it sit and I go home, maybe a day, like maybe an hour or two early, even if I have other stuff to do. If I told myself I want to get the concept done by today, I'll just be like, okay, I will not have it today, and then I'll just leave it and I go home and I come back tomorrow the next morning, or I get the idea when I'm on my way back home in the car. um but yeah. Matthias said
um
before, when you have less skill than at the moment, did you limit your ideas to your skills, or do you think with no limit and way to learn to put your ideas into project? That's a good question, actually. And I would say that it's it's both, because I have realized that the more I understand software and the more I know how you can do certain things, the more creative ideas I have and the more efficient and doable those ideas also are. Because if I, for example, had no idea how to do certain things in 3D, I would have a very hard time coming up with a realistic idea that is possible for this job. If I had to go back in and learn everything from scratch, I would probably come up with ideas that would not be realistic to do. But I've always been wanting to create certain things. And at the beginning, it was definitely harder than now to come up with ideas, I think, because I was learning the software, but it was like a work together. I was having an idea, I learned something that was helping me to have the next idea, and then it helped. And now I'm nowhere near to knowing everything about the softwares that I use, but I still know just enough for me to know that certain things are more possible and certain things are more time consuming. But obviously, if you're starting from scratch, I still think you should go in and don't try to limit yourself based on your skill set, and just see how much time certain things take. Start learning from there. Go in with no limitations, and then you will learn that there may or may not be some limitations and certain things take more time than other things. But yeah, 100%. I think even when I started back out and I showed you these Lego videos, I think I had more ideas because I knew that I could capture them with my Nintendo. If I didn't have that understanding of like, okay, there's a camera built into my Nintendo, I could take a bunch of pictures. And if I play them through after one another, it becomes a movie. And that sparked so much in me. I was like, okay, then if I can do that, I can do anything, And I started drawing on the things with my Nintendo pen. And then, I did some warping action to like make when the blast was shooting like a boop effect. It's like on my Nintendo. And I guess you could consider that me learning some new skills and then having new ideas from that new skill. So I think it works both together. Um,
Ayman.
I'm on. Is it possible?
Oh, oh, I love this question. Oh, because I struggled there. Oh my God.
Is it possible to train my mind to become more creative? Can creativity be achieved by practicing it?
Fuck yeah. From
That
my
is a
own experience. You
That is
can
good.
go.
You want to go ahead, add your
Okay, I
thoughts to
will
that
add
one.
my 2 cents here because I
Yeah.
really thought myself I am a dumbass. I thought myself that I'm not creative. I am not all of that. You gotta understand, creativity is it has different types, and it took me years to get this in my head to finally get it. I, as a person, I'm not creative. When you say most of the people, when you tell them creativity, they think like, oh, you have to create something from the scratch. Like if you put them in the middle of the desert, hey, we won't do this. That's it. No guidance, nothing. Go fuck yourself. Be creative. Do whatever you gotta do. You know, some people are very good at this, but I'm not one of them. But I am good when, let's say, Lenny, for example, is giving me an actual guidance, actual idea, and there's like some sort of guidance and path. And then I walk through it and I tell him, like, yo, no, this is shit. We should change this and change that and put this and put that. So it's still the same path, but it's just there are things he couldn't see, I could see. And that's where my creativity comes in. So definitely you are creative. You just need to find your own type of creativity. That's first. And second, regarding your creativity can be achieved by practicing. Yes, I remember when I started video editing, I was literally just following step-by-step guides. And to me, honestly, that's how it should be. You gotta recreate what the person has created. For example, in this case, Lenny, that's personally okay. um I followed his tutorial step by step until I get how things are working, and if it's not working, why it's not working. Okay. And then with time, you just naturally, the more you put work, the more you put reps into recreating the same thing, and then you start by yourself, just naturally. It's like, okay, what if I change just this, just one thing? It's still the same video, you're following step by step, but you just change one step. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then with time, suddenly you by your own self, you just comes like, hey, I have this idea. I visual this thing transition. How can I do it? And
Mm-hmm.
just you just come out of it and you start become creative just naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And that, keep in mind that all of that was before AI.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine right now AI, like AI can give you tons of ideas that can be so creative. So
I
definitely you can achieve it by practice, and definitely you are creative. You just find your own type.
mm-hmm.
Don't say that you're not creative.
I That was very interesting. I think what I want to add to that is I would agree that I think every human being has ideas. I think that's just how our brains work. Like we have to, back in the days we had to like come up with solutions to build things to like survive, you know. And I think that what you were saying is, you're giving me as an example to like give you a rough guideline, and then you have ideas through those guidelines. It's basically the same thing for me when I work with clients. For an example, I am given certain limitations and certain guidelines and products to work with, and I don't personally see myself as a person who would be in an empty room and just be like, okay, wow, let my creativity flow and let me put something here and boom and magic. I don't think that's how I work. That's not how my creativity works. That's how some people work. And I'm like, this is crazy, but I don't think it needs to be that for you to say that you're creative, right? As Aladdin said, I think everybody has a certain own vision on things, and some ideas are better than others. I would be lying if I said that that was not the case. But I think giving yourself certain limitations, and that can be a client project, that can be personal deadlines you set to yourself, that can be a personal challenge you set to yourself, taking your series as an example, Aladdin. um, Giving yourself certain like limitations, deadlines, to really put a bit of pressure on you, and also give yourself a direction that I think will enable you to automatically, because you need to think of things, have those ideas, because you need to. And I could not agree more, because I've also talked to, and that's actually really good, because Isaac just asked, how do you manage your time between client projects and personal projects? And honestly, I love that question, Isaac, because this is something that a lot of people ask me, and a lot of people I think struggle with. But I think for me, it goes hand in hand, because I don't think that if I didn't have, I mean, obviously now is a phase where there's a lot of projects coming in. It's a very, very stressful, and I need to do a bit less just to not burn out. But I would say that if I could choose between, scratch all the money, I could choose between having 6 months of nothing, no client work, no commission. I would have the money for it. Like, it's not about the pay. It's just about me not having to do anything. I honestly don't think I would produce more videos, more creative videos for personal projects than I would if I had clients project lining up. Just because I know that if I give myself too much creative freedom and just give myself too much time, I will not come up with those ideas. And even with the Lego video, for an example, I did that in between client projects, and I took the time to work on that just because I wanted to visualize that idea. And because the time is limited, I had to find solutions to make that work. If I had fucking 4 weeks to do that, I would have probably never finished it. Or, then certain things I would not skip certain steps for efficiency reasons, but I would probably take the time to really perfect them, and then I would get lost in that. And it was like, you need to give yourself those timelines, otherwise you don't finish stuff. And that is why I always prefer to have just enough projects on the side that I know are my work, and really using the time for personal project as kind of a break and as a relief and retreat to go back to that initial spark. And it's very hard to put that into practice, because it's very easy to also get lost in client projects. But for me, doing those personal projects like the Lego video, that when I put them out, usually also the videos that perform a lot better than the other ones, because it comes from passion, and that's where it all started. But those videos, because I have so much work piling up, feel like I'm actually doing something fun. If I didn't have those things to do, those things would not feel as fun, meaning the ideas would probably not be as good. So I balance it where I find just enough time for those projects to still be able to work on client projects and have that working in that way. So yeah. You're still muted, bro, again.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I just right now just created a prompt that can help maybe with ideation.
Okay.
Just right now. So yeah,
Ooh,
Tostik,
also, yeah,
tell me.
also one big thing, I also use ChatGPT a lot for. Oh, that's one thing I didn't mention at all. I have a whole GPT, and I would sorry for interrupting you, but I would like to show you guys. I have what my GPT looks like. I have a concept. Oh, actually, I don't know if I can show it just like that, but let me just quickly check if there's some important stuff in there. Oh yeah, actually, there was something very important in there. I I am going to show you what it looks like. Let me just see what the last things are. Okay, okay, we're not too many people. I think I can show it here, but you can see that's what my ChatGPT looks like, and it probably looks completely different to you because I use it in that way. I have a personal ChatGPT. I have someone for text. I have some general stuff, and I have e-communication, and I also have concept ChatGPT. And that ChatGPT I use for a lot of concepts, and you can see how much I talk with that. With that ChatGPT, and then just because I know it, I feel like it gets to know me a lot more, and I don't copy the ideas it gives me just because I usually don't really think they're perfect, but they usually give me a good input. And feel free, I'm gonna quickly open the door. Sorry for that, but feel free to share what you were just saying.
Yeah,
Love to see
okay.
that.
So what I
Just go
was
ahead.
okay. So what I was saying, guys, I just made a prompt and just tested out right now after I made it, and absolutely it gave me a lot of good ideas. When I read them from the first glimpse, sounds like uh maybe it's fine, not really. but actually gives really good idea. So I'm gonna share it here with you guys
Hmm.
in the chat. So feel free to copy and paste it and just change whatever that needs to be changed. And yeah, put it and paste it on your niche or whatever. And it will actually help. It just gave me like really 10 different ideas. I think all of them are pretty good. Like not so good to make a
Oh
content
shit.
around it, but it's very good to give me an idea what's the next idea is going to be about. And I will include something around it.
All
So
right.
feel free, guys, to copy paste and just change whatever it needs to be changed. I hope it helps.
That's cool. I just dropped my microphone here.
No problem.
Um,
Yeah,
I
feel free to check the prompt that I put in the chat as well, Lenny. If you want to read it
Yeah,
and check it.
I mean it's cool. As I said, I use ChatGPT that I know understands my style a lot more because I also feed it with a lot of like context, and it makes me like I want to learn. I wanted to learn about what I do, what my style is, but yet still I'm like using the stuff that it gives me just as like small inspiration. And sometimes there's usually one thing in there that just sparks something, and I skip everything I just
Exactly.
said, and it's just like that one thing, like, oh shit, okay, should have thought about that, and then like, okay, cool. But yeah, just ideation.
Think of ChatGPT as a third, as a second perspective. Someone is giving you a different perspective or feeding you with something that has forgotten. Like if, for example, if Lenny came to me with the whole idea and explained everything and whatever, I would never came up with that idea, the whole thing. But maybe I will feed him with one little idea or maybe a stupid thing he forgot, you know, but he
Yeah,
shared it with me and it's like, oh shit, how did I forget that, or I never thought of it, even though it's a little bit.
yeah,
ChatGPT is more or less like that. It will
yeah,
probably not give you the best ideas, but it will give you that spark, give you that
yeah.
small little thing that you should have thought about it, but your brain somehow just ignored it for some reason.
Exactly. I'm thinking if I should have like, because there's so many times where I realized that that exact thing is the case where I'm like, I'm sharing a rough idea with it, and like everything is shit, and I read one word in there, and it's just like it's not even connected to the actual idea, but it's just like one word that gives me an input, and I'm like, oh, and then I just close it immediately, and I start boom, and it's like it's magic, honestly.
Exactly.
Um,
ChatGPT is a creative partner. Exactly, Tasdeeq. You
think
are
of it
absolutely
as
fucking
a
right.
creative partner and not as like a the solution giver. But yeah, I'm so sorry. I need to go very urgently, but I would love to have this conversation in maybe another call. Maybe I can prepare some more stuff. Also, one more thing. I actually for the next call, because I was having this conversation with Paul Timelapse Worlds. I was just here before the call, and I was talking to him about his ideation process. We actually started a really good conversation, and he had to go now. But I would like for the future, for the next one of the few calls, I would like to set up something else here, and we just do like a podcast together with him, and we just do like a talk about some stuff here. He's down for that, so we can bring some more questions, more topics to talk about that. Feel free to also collect that in the community. For the future, I will bring a lot of other creators also onto this creators calls. So also feel free to share who you think is inspiration for you, who you would like to ask, because I can bring them on. Yeah, I would love to do that
Cool.
for the future. Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. I hope that was somewhat insightful. I know it's not traditional topic to talk about, but yeah, I would like to have those calls, just like mixing it up a bit. So
Awesome. Thank you, guys, and I hope all the information was here was very helpful, and I hope you enjoy the prompt.
thank you, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.
See you guys.